of bringing in the guests, just as Abraham did. So we see to a certain extent that he's trying to be like Abraham. Now, the question that I want to ask before we tie this all together is, what is with the matzah? What is with the matzah?
They didn't have an hour to keep them on, so they made it in a hurry.
That's what I was thinking.
There you go.
Yeah, the guests came and they were hungry and he needed to put something together fast.
So,
And it took about 18 minutes.
right.
And
So
it was before microwaves.
Yeah.
right, there you go. So Rashi says two words. Pesach Chaya. It was Passover. Right, it was Passover, so of course he made matzahs. But I think it works on a much deeper level, and we'll see
It was
it.
way before Passover.
Exactly. It was way before Passover. So what does it mean it was Passover? We'll see here in a moment.
But they knew it.
Well, Abraham, we see from the Talmud, did know it was Passover,
Yeah,
but not Lot.
he knew that his,
He had
his ancestors would go and be slaves.
Right, he understood the situation.
Right.
Lot didn't though. But Rashi says, needless to say, nevertheless, Rashi says over here, it was Pesach. So what does that mean? So let's bring it all together now. So why is it that God decides at this moment, after Abraham brings in the guests, to destroy Sodom? And I think the answer is that God at this moment understands that he has a person like Abraham in the world. A person who is the paradigm of kindness. The person who is the paradigm of bringing in guests. And here he sees that he has a person who's so special that the third day after his circumcision, which is the most painful of the days, and the heat of the day, when all the situations are difficult, he bends over backwards and goes out of his way to bring in these guests, and he's running around, he's making the matzahs, he's shechting the cow, he's milking the cow, he's doing everything. God sees if I have someone this great in the world, if humankind can reach such a level, well, it must be there's no place for people like that. So once God sees Abraham on such a lofty level, he says, well, it's time to get rid of the other people who are the diametrically opposed people in the world to Abraham. That we see that they, so much so that their laws on the book were so anti-hospitality that they were the antithesis of it with the sodomy and with the stealing, that he says it's time to get rid of those people because we have people like Abraham. Now, God comes in to destroy the city, and he sees there that he has the descendant of Abraham, Lot, who tried so hard always to emulate Abraham. But in order for Lot to be saved at this point, he was going to have to, so to speak, pass a test. He was going to have to pass the test to see if he was really on the level of Abraham, if he really could do it. And I want to offer the explanation that this was actually his Passover offering. This was his Pesach offering. And that's what Rashi means when he says Pesachaya. This was his Passover.
Whose Passover?
This was Lot's Passover. This was Lot's own personal Passover. What do I mean by that? What was the Passover offering? It was a lamb. How was it offered? I'm talking about the first one, not the subsequent one brought in Israel, but the first one in the land of Egypt. What was the Passover offering? It was a lamb. Now what was the lamb? The lamb was the god of the Egyptians.
Right.
And what do the Jews have to do? They have to take that god of the Egyptians, tie it to the bed for 5 days of preparation, eventually shecht the god of the Egyptians, take the blood, put it on the doorpost, so the angel of death wouldn't come in. What was that action in Egypt all about?
Not to destroy the good people.
Right, not to destroy the good people, but I would say
they were literally debasing the gods of Egypt.
they were literally debasing the god of Egypt, and not only that, but they were putting the blood on the doorposts.
Yeah.
What were they saying in that action? They were saying Egypt is not going to come into our house. It was the ultimate rejection of the Egyptian society, and until the Jews would reach that level of rejection of the Egyptian society, they could not leave Egypt. And that was the whole goal of the Pesach offering, the Passover offering, was that the Jews should take an active role in rejecting Egyptian society. What was Lot doing over here? What was Lot doing over here?
He was trying to fit into the society.
He was trying to fit in, or he was trying to reject the
Well,
society?
he was rejecting it in protecting the angels.
Right, and protecting the angels, it was his ultimate rejection of the society of Sodom and Gomorrah. Here they were focused on sodomy and the antithesis of hospitality, and so to speak, he was bringing it into his house and saying, I reject this, and he was stopping them again at his door.
So
Just like when it comes to the physical act, just like with the Passover offering, put the blood on the door. saying Egypt doesn't come into my house. Lot was saying Sodom isn't going to come into my house. Now yes, after he passed this great test, he has a tremendous fall with his daughters, which we'll talk about next week. But the Passover offering, he passed.
Right.
And if you look at the situation, it's quite interesting. Because what was the last steps before the exodus from Egypt vis-a-vis the Egyptians? You had the 9th plague and the 10th plague. What was the 9th plague? Darkness. Right? What was the 10th plague? Slaying of the firstborn. What was the second to last thing that happened to the Sodomites? They were all blinded. What was the last thing that happened? They were all killed. So you see a direct parallel here between the actual Passover story that the Jews went through, and here Lot is having his own personal Pesach. And by fulfilling and being successful and doing what he was supposed to do by saying, I'm not going to be a Sodomite, that passing of the test, so to speak, and fulfilling his own Passover offering, on that merit he was able to be saved and to go on to the next step, which gave him the very important place in history of being a forefather of the eventual king of Israel and the eventual king of the world, the Messiah himself.
Couldn't he have done all that without offering his daughters?
Offering his daughters we'll get to next week. We still have not, we brought a lot of questions up tonight that we have not answered, and that's why I said we're going to have 2 classes on Lot and his daughters. Next week we'll get into the daughters, and we've left a lot of questions hanging here. Just, I hope you'll all be able to sleep in the coming week with these questions on your mind, but I guarantee you next week you're going to get back to some of these other questions and be able to tie them together before we go on to Yehuda tomorrow.
Why did Lot move to Sodom?
It was a nice place to live.
There was green pastures over there.
Yeah.
It's an oasis.
There's an oasis, a beautiful place.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to miss next week. I have another meeting to attend, but I expect to be here 2 weeks.
Don't worry, we will record it for you, and good chance I'll be videotaping it again.
He's going to do with like Esha Torah does. You go on the website.
Yeah, right. But I still owe you from one of the last classes.
Who were
The Chassidim the Sadducees and the Pharisees. That was the only question. I still owe you that one. I have to get that for you.
Plus there's Sunday morning things.
Sunday morning, yes, I'm giving class Sunday morning at 10 a.m.
It didn't say what time.
Oh,
It did. It's on the
It did.
postcard.
it's a little hard to read.
Yeah.
10 a.m.
I didn't get those.
Oh, I did.
I think it came in the mail by today. If you didn't get it today, I'll get it tomorrow. And it'll be in my newsletter this week also.
Okay.
You actually, the postcards are on the way out if you grab one off the table.
Okay.
That's going to be done.
That's the name at the main branch of the Kollel and the annex. That's if you drive. Well, I wouldn't recommend parking in the parking lot because not well. For sure, we're gonna chalk up a place to park over there. But there's the 2 buildings. You have the building on the right, which is the main building, and the building on the left, which they call the annex. It'll be in that building on the left. I'm speaking on the topic of the holiness of place. So Sunday morning spiritual sampler, I think is the name of the program, and be there, be square. I'm doing the first one.
Getting back to the Passover thing, why is this land different from all
Right.
others?
Be a little taste of
There's
mysticism.
other holy sites beside Israel.
Right.
Sure, this Mecca.
Okay, thank y'all for coming.
Is this Sunday the 14th?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So
Great.
are you going to record that? Because
I'll be recording it.
I won't be.
Sure, I'll record it.
And are all these different, do you have to give us the link to these things, or could we go to the
It's actually it's TorahMedia.com. If you go to TorahMedia.com and you just search my name, every class I've ever put on there will pop up. And you can download it, you can stream them. Yeah, it's actually usually on the bottom of my newsletter. I should probably put it more on the top, but it is on the, it's always, the link is always on the bottom of the newsletter.
But you have to have an MP3 player to...
Well, you can put it off a computer, and if you have a Windows Media Player, which you do, you can make an audio CD out of it. So you can either listen to it on your computer, or you just put in a blank CD and make an audio CD.
So I go to Esha Torah.
No, TorahMedia.com.
Torah.
Yeah, TorahMedia.com. And in the list of speakers, you'll see my name's on the list of speakers, so you can just put in the search box. And it'll come up with the whole Back to the Past series is on there, and the Kabbalah 101 is on there, and Great Controversies. Actually, Great Controversies isn't on there yet because their site was down. But everything's on there. And this will, hopefully as of tonight or tomorrow, be on there as well.
Your recorder's off?
Yeah, recorder's off. Do you want to turn off the video?
I don't know how to do that. That's you. You should remember me.
I will never forget you.
What was the